Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm Goose, joined by Ray Howe. As always, before we get to him, got to shout out our good friends at Betway. If you're in Ontario, you're 19 plus, and you're looking to make a couple of bets, Betway is the place to go. I mean, the Jets, they're looking like underdogs tomorrow night against the Vegas Golden Knights. So if you're feeling ballsy about that, go bet on the Jets to beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Ray, before I get to you one more time, sorry, I got a couple housekeeping things to let everyone know. First of all, if you haven't liked and subscribed to this podcast, do that now. We're getting some bigger numbers at jetsnation.ca, so it looks like we might be doing more fun stuff in the future. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And second of all, we are selling Jets Nation t-shirts. At least a handful of them. So if you want one of those, slide into the Jets Nation's DM. I don't care where. I will make sure we arrange something. These shirts are going to be just $20. It is a gorgeous shirt. I'm very happy with how they turned out. So yeah, those should be out around December 1st, give or take a little bit. But yeah, if you want one of those, you live in the city, I will drop it off to your house. If you live outside the city, we'll get you to pay for delivery unless you're Ray, because then you don't have to pay for anything because you're pretty darn cool. Ray, how are you doing?
Pretty good. It's unfortunate. Again, seeing the Jets special teams really suck it up again. Like those two games were the last two were so winnable, and then it's just frustrating to see them leave points on the table.
Oh, so frustrating. And I mean, not just the Jets power play, but the top line in the last two games hasn't done anything. I mean, cool that Kyle Connor got 5 shots on against who did we last play? I'm blanking on that. We lost either way. Kyle Connor,
New York.
5 shots. New York, there we go. Oof. But yeah, 5 shots on New York, still not good enough to not get yourself a goal, especially when you do have big names on that line. And Mark Scheifele without a shot against New York as well. So a little concerning from that top line. That does lead me to our first question. If the Jets don't get anything rolling against the Vegas Golden Knights coming up tomorrow night, what do you do to change up that top line?
I think that you really need to take Iafallo off that line. Again, like he's such a great player, but he may not be the perfect fit for that line. Again, we saw him do really good in the first couple games with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. But again, like that didn't mean that last year Appleton didn't have a really good game with those line mates as well. Like I think that he could be a fit long term, maybe. But again, like I feel like you might need to rotate someone out of that position, kind of switch up the lineup a little bit, maybe put Nino Niederreiter on that line and swap that. But again, you need to find a way where you have offense coming from that line. And right now, it's not looking like it's coming very easily.
But if you take Nino Niederreiter off that third line, although Appleton and Larry have their magic, like, do you really want to screw with the third line chemistry right now? Like, that is a
Yeah,
red
true.
hot, not even red hot. That is a white hot line right now.
Yeah, okay. I maybe not Nino. I'd probably I maybe someone like Nemestikov or someone like that. I feel like Nemestikov on that first line of how smart and aware he is on the ice. I feel like if you give Perfetti another shot at center, I feel like Iafallo, Perfetti, and Ehlers could be a pretty good second line as well.
Yeah, I could get behind that second line. It wouldn't be a bad start to see what could happen. I mean, Nemestikov hasn't had a bad turn of events in the second line. I've actually enjoyed a lot of that second line. And I mean, it looks like Cole Perfetti's back to getting regular minutes on there as well. So yeah, change up the top six just a little bit. I think that might be the answer because I mean, you go to the bottom line there, and I mean, who could you bring up from there? Like
You
Gustafson's
could bring up
great
a
and all.
you could bring up a Kapari, but again, like there isn't anyone in the bottom six where you don't want to mess with that third line, and there isn't anyone on that fourth line that's really pushing to be like, yeah, I need to be on the swap me to the first line. I think it's just tweaking around what the top two lines are, maybe swapping in Ehlers, swapping out IFL. Like I feel like anyone in that top six could be swapped around. Like again, like you could even, I'm not saying that this is the best course of action too, but you could always have Kyle Connor and Shifley on separate lines and see how that goes. But again, like I feel like the Jets are in a great spot right now where they have a lot of players that can play in a lot of different positions. So I wouldn't be upset with them. And whatever change they'd like to make, and even seeing Kyle Connor and Shifley on different lines just to see what you're able to have and maybe chemistry that you wouldn't see if you didn't split up someone like Connor and Shifley.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a very fascinating thing to see, just because those two have had such long-term success together that I think it would almost mess them up a little bit too long. But you're absolutely right. You could throw Perfetti onto the top line. You could easily put Vlad Nemestikov, and although he doesn't have the talent to be there, the hockey IQ is definitely there. And I mean Nikolai Ehlers, he's done well on the top line before, so yeah.
Yeah.
We just a little shake up. Do you shake that up before we go to Vegas, or do you shake that up after Vegas?
I think I would shake it up after Vegas. I feel like Iafallo is someone you really want to have playing with Shifley and Connor because how good he is in the forecheck, just getting pucks, kind of finding the soft ice. But again, like this isn't a problem that's going to be around into the far future as well, because if you kind of remember the back to the first couple games, who was originally supposed to be there, and Velarde, like I feel like Velarde is that answer on that top line, and it's just kind of unfortunate with his injury right now, and kind of finding the way to balance the lineup without him. But going forward, I feel like he's going to be someone that could really work on that top line. And we didn't really even get to see him that much.
No, we didn't, and which is just such a heartbreaker. But I mean, he went on the road trip with the boys, so that's got to be a good positive sign that he's hopefully closer to the original 6 weeks prediction, that's how long he was going to be injured, rather than, or was it 4 to 6, or was it 6 to 8?
I think it was four to
Four to
six
six.
weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, like we could be just 2 weeks away from him returning. So fingers crossed that's the way it goes, because I would love to see him back in the lineup. But once we get to that point, who are you taking out of the lineup? Because you got David Gustafson, 2 goals in his games already. He's looking like a stud. Um, really, there's no one I could want to take out of the lineup.
Yeah, and I think that's a good problem to have. Like again, I would take out Gustafson as much as it would hurt me to do so. Him scoring 2 goals after not scoring in goals for I think they said on the broadcast like over 50 games or 40 games without a goal. And I love to see him have the success because he's a player that he works hard. He goes to the rink every day. He brings it 100% effort. And it looks like this season, like if he gets the ice time, he gets the confidence up, he could really become someone like a Morgan Barron type player where he can play in that bottom six, has some size and has some PK, but also some offensive upside. Like those goals that he scored, like he shelved it on Shesterkin, and Shesterkin is a top 5 goalie in the league right now. So I feel like him with confidence is going to be a great thing to see. But again, there's only 12 roster spots going forward. But again, every team's going to experience injuries, and the Jets aren't going to be excluded from that. So I feel like Gustafson has really cemented himself as that 13th forward, and will be in even substituting in if a player has a bad game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a good guy to have in your back pocket for sure. Um, yeah, I'm very excited. I'm a little disappointed that, yeah, unfortunately injuries do happen, and then you have to see someone like Gusto uh sit out a couple games. I mean, very much like the guy that I've been just beating on the drums for all this time in Kyle Capabianco. It's just like, darn it, we need more space for these guys because they are so talented, and just wrong place, wrong time, unfortunately. The Jets power play, they are looking like they could use a guy like Capobianco back there to get them rolling. What's the solution for the Jets power play to get rolling again? Because it's just night and day from last year.
Yeah, I think that they really have to go back to some of like the basics of a power play, like what a power play is meant to do. Because even if you don't score in a power play, again, you want to have a power play that generates momentum for the team. And the Jets just aren't creating a lot of momentum. They're not creating shots. And I think they just need to get pucks to the net and have bodies there where they're taking away the vision of the goalie. Like you saw the goal that the Rangers scored on the power play. It was a simple shot from the point that got deflected. Even without the deflection, I feel like the a goal like that would be possible with a screen like that. So I feel like the Jets are trying to do a little too much, trying to find the perfect play, the perfect pass. And again, like you want to generate momentum for the team. You want a power play that looks deadly. And that's the last thing the Jets power play has looked so far.
Oh, 100%. I love that. That doesn't look deadly. It's almost been a momentum killer for the Jets the last two games for sure. It's like, oh, okay, we get a power play. And I've almost been sad about it. I'm like, I would rather take the penalty kill, to be perfectly honest with you. At least Adam Laurie can take the chance on a potential breakaway on the power play or on the penalty kill. So yeah, they got to figure it out real quick. Um, we got a message from a fan last week asking about a potential trade, and we eventually just shut him down on it. But you came up with a brand new trade for Rasmus Anderson from Calgary.
Yeah.
So, first of all, why does this guy make sense for the Jets?
I think he's a perfect target for the Jets because, again, like you even saw with the suspension, I know this is starting on kind of a weird foot, but you kind of see his physical side. You see him, that passion in his game where he doesn't like to lose. He wants to be an impact player every night. And he's a right shot defenseman. He has 3 years left on his deal. And it doesn't look like Calgary is a team that's going to be contending for the playoffs this year, or if they are, they're going to have to find a turnaround real quick. And again, right-handed defenseman with term and that can play in your top four. I feel like Rasmus Anderson is a player that the Jets would be wanting, and then also a lot of other teams would want to because he's on quite a good contract as well.
Yeah, he sure is. And I mean, like, Calgary needs a good room guy like Nate Schmidt right now. So, like, listen, I get that Anderson is going into his prime right now, and Nate Schmidt is obviously leaving his prime. So, would you be willing to trade a major prospect, let's say an A plus prospect from the Jets, and a first rounder and Nate Schmidt for a guy like Anderson?
Yeah, I think I would trade a little bit more than that too. Like there's gonna be teams that are gonna be competing with offers like that. So I feel like to get someone like that, you would have to be trading like a Chaz Lucius, a first round pick, probably some other piece as well, maybe like a second round pick next year because Montreal's is gonna be a little too good. But again, you got to give to get, and in this league, a top right hand defenseman that plays the style he does is going to be a player that a lot of teams are going to want. And with that term as well, it's not going to be a rental.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, you don't want to treat a guy like Anderson like a rental. And I don't know much about him, but yeah, that was as soon as you mentioned that name, I was like, that is a sexy pick. And he's on both of my fantasy teams this year. So hasn't done very much because it's been a rough start for Calgary, but that's okay. I'm sure they'll figure it out soon.
Mhm.
But let me know what everyone else thinks about that trade in the comments because I appreciate your comments from time to time. I need your help on a bold prediction that I made yesterday, and I got clowned on it a little bit, but other people were kind of into it. But does Blake Wheeler play at least one more game in a Jets jersey?
I don't think he would, but I do see the vision on what you're thinking of here. And I think that my compromise would be I feel like Blake Wheeler would be the type of guy where he would almost like to be in the organization. You see some of these players retire, like someone like Jason Spezza and anyone like that. Like they retire and they join their organization that they've been with. So I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Blake Wheeler join the management or player development for the Jets going forward.
Yeah, that dude seemed real passionate about the city of Winnipeg, and yeah, it's a weird place to end up and then just be like one of the things in radio is people will go to like a place like Toronto or Vancouver and they'll want out in a couple of years. But if you come to Winnipeg, everyone's like, yeah, I'm here for 6 months max and then I'm gone. And then you end up being here for 60 years and you're just like, shit, where'd all that time go? I'm here to stay.
Mhm.
So yeah, Winnipeg's got a hold on a lot of people and Blake Wheeler clearly is not immune. I like to see the management. That's a good place to be with him. So I like the compromise.
Mhm.
Do you think you see 26 up in the rafters though?
I think you have to. I think with the impact he's had and just the player he was for the team, like being the captain, bringing a young team to the conference final, and just being like again like he wasn't a perfect captain, and I don't think there ever is a really perfect captain. And I feel like he was a player that really encompassed being in Winnipeg. And again, you got to respect the players what impact they've brought to your team. And I feel like Wheeler's really brought a lot of leadership and great things to the city of Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, yeah, I was gonna say not just the team itself. He did a lot of great stuff for that team. But yeah, the city of Winnipeg, there's a lot of things that he did, like working with Cancer Care Foundation here in the city. Like the guy is still talked about at those events. Just very much loved and enjoyed. So good on Blake Wheeler. And yeah, I hope to see. Do you think he's the first guy to end up in the rafters?
Yeah, I would think so. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, besides, yeah, because like Bufflin kind of had a crappy way of leaving, even though he was fantastic for the organization. I don't know if we see 33 go up in the rafters, but 26, I'd be willing to bet big money on it. Okay. Let's Paul Stastny also called it a career after 17 years. So happy retirement there, Paul Stastny. And now let's move on to our Ottawa segment, because apparently we're going to do this weekly now because they just love to be the center of attention in this league. Their GM fired today. Fired or quit? Because I've heard two different reports. Fired. Okay. I heard that he resigned on his own term at one point. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. But they had to give up a first round pick within the next 3 years because of not telling the truth to the Vegas Golden Knights about Evgeny Dadonov.
Yeah, Dadonov, yes.
Yeah. And it's just like, what an organization. Like last week, one of your star defensemen can't play for half a season because he gets busted. So like, what is going on with the Ottawa Senators?
Yeah, and like there's just so much news going on with Ottawa. Like you have Shane Pinto with the 41 game ban, you have Shabbat injured, and now you have this, and just recently, like they were talking about like the purchase of the team, and like this is a new owner as well. So Ann Lauer is the new owner of the Jets, and to see, I don't think he knew about these two investigations that were going on with Pinto and the Dadonov situation. So it's going to be really interesting to see like if this is the end of it or if there's just more to come.
Yeah, you got to wonder what's hiding underneath all that paperwork, because that guy, yeah, I'd be pissed to be the owner of an NHL team and realize how much of a tire fire that's been left. And it's not even Eugene Melnick's fault. I thought that guy was going to be the downfall of that organization, and no, it was everyone else's fault but him. Also, respect to Eugene Melnick, because I had a fantastic Twitter beef with that guy. So yeah, and like I mean, you also have to consider like what did the NHL take away from the Ottawa Senators and compare it to the Blackhawks? Like the Blackhawks got caught up with the Kyle Beach situation, and $2 million in fines. They still got Connor Bedard. Ottawa, their GM makes an oopsies or an intentional oopsies. It's like, oh, you gotta lose a first rounder. So like how much of a black eye does this actually leave on the NHL as a whole?
I think it's not as much of a black eye as some people think, but like again, like the GM is in charge of that team, and the as a GM, like if you're trading a player, you need to know trade protection, you need to know what's going on. You can't be oblivious to things like this, because then when you have Vegas trying to trade him to Anaheim, you have the trade just denied, and then the NHL kind of looks like it doesn't know what it's doing. It kind of shows a little bit of weakness in what the league is going on. And I feel like Ottawa should have been more diligent in making sure that knowing if the trade protection was there, or like even just making sure that they double checked, because you have things like this that bite you. It's not even from this year and it's biting them right now.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's going to be tough to try to convince Gary Bettman to allow another NHL team to come back to Canada with just all the shenanigans that go on with these teams. Probably the worst of them all. Also, this is just a random question for you. Do you think the Jets have less than 9,000 fans in attendance for one game this season?
um I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna be optimistic that that wouldn't happen. But again, it depends on the way of the season and kind of what the direction the Jets are looking towards, because obviously going to a Jets game, it's getting expensive. And if the Jets aren't playing good, or they come across a situation where people aren't wanting to go to the game as much, it definitely could be a situation that happens. But I'm gonna lean on the side of that it wouldn't occur this year.
Dang, I love to hear it. And hopefully next season we're talking about dirt cheap Jets tickets because True North gets into a panic situation. So yeah, hopefully it all gets sorted out. Yeah. Well, that's Ray. Before we finish off here, I want to know your prediction for the next week for the Jets. So we have the Vegas Golden Knights coming up. We got the Coyotes on Saturday and the St. Louis Blues on Tuesday. What are the Jets' record?
I think the Jets are going to be 2-1. I think they're going to beat Vegas tomorrow. And I really thought that the Blues played really good against the Jets, so I feel like the Blues might have a pretty good game against the Jets and beat them on that Tuesday game.
Okay. I can get behind that. I'm going to say the Jets go 2-0-1. They lose in overtime to the Knights again, but I think the Jets will outplay the Knights. Should be a win against the Coyotes, but that's going to be an exciting win because the Coyotes are actually they've had a couple good games this season so far. So, I mean, they had that 8-1 victory the other night. Fantastic to see. And they're knocking on the door right behind the Jets. So that's going to be a fun victory for the Winnipeg Jets. And then a decisive win over the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, I think you said 2-0-1 last week, and it didn't really happen. So let's
Shut
hope
up.
that you're right this time.
Yeah, this is why I never go back and listen to be like, what did we do? I just like to pretend that we know what we're doing. Ray, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me at ray.how on Instagram. And if you have any questions or any mock trades that you think the Jets would be making and you want us to look at it, we can go ahead and send those over. So it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the potential trades because like the Jets, I'm dead serious about it. The Jets are 2 pieces away from being a cup contender. They are 1 top 6 forward away, and I believe a second line centerman, and they are a right shot defenseman away from being that team.
They need a Dustin Bufflin.
Yeah, let me just go hunting for unicorns out there, eh? I'll find them. I'll go find my 6'4", 260-pounder just cruising around who can also skate like a monster. Yeah. Also give me a follow, Angus Hout on Instagram and Twitter. Check out jetsnation.ca. Give us a like and subscribe. All of that good stuff. Have a fantastic week. Go Jets, go. And we'll talk to you again next weekend next week. Peace.
Yeah, go Jets, go.
Go Jets, go.